But the old man had a lot of sense, and he knew just exactly what to do. He dropped a dime in the phone till he got the dial tone, and he talked to operator 42. Operator 42, she was the best, and she gave out the description of Jake the maggot with the gang colors jacket and Matula with the 45 gun. Now it just so happens that Jake, he was headed for 522. Well, 104 was popped in the shade, thinking, baby, I'm waiting for you. Jake laughed and thought he had it made, but you should have seen the look in his eyes when outside Monroe on 522, you know he got.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with our host, Gary Anderson.
And here I am. We're talking to Tony and his lovely wife about, well, ghost hunting and experiences they have had. Now, have you ever, well, had an experience, seriously, where you got scared?
You want to answer that, Sherry? You want me to answer it? You want me to answer it? Yeah. The most recent investigation we did was at the Diplomat Hotel in Baguio City, Philippines. And this place has a reputation that just is downright scary just hearing about it, because, I mean, the locals in the town of Baguio City won't even go near it after dark. I mean, they may do a tour during the day, but once the sun goes down, they won't even go anywhere near it. And Cherie and I had to get permission from the mayor of the city to be in there after dark, which of course we were able to obtain. And we investigated that for an overnight investigation. And this place was just the ominous feeling, the energy that was in there, the voices that we could hear speaking to us with our own ears before we had even gone through the recordings. When we had walked up to the building, because the building's gated, the security guard took our letter from the mayor saying we were allowed to investigate. He let us in the gate. He walked halfway to the building, turned and said, the front door is open, have fun. And we're like, you're not coming in? He's like, nope, won't go anywhere near it.
Now, Tony,
but
I got to ask you this, okay? Because now the listeners, you got them curious. What reputation did that old hotel have where people didn't want to go there after dark? And even the security guard, only would walk halfway and said, hey, basically, hey, guys, you're on your own. I'm not going to go there.
Well, the reputation of the building was, it was originally built by a group of monks, and it was a religious building, and it was used... What?
It's a retreat house.
Right. It was a religious retreat house for monks and nuns. And they occupied the building for, I think, 20, 30 years. But then World War II...
Yamashita.
Yeah, Yamashita came in to take over the Philippines. And he used the Diplomat Hotel as his World War II bunker. And they murdered all the monks and all the nuns that were in the building at the time. So that was part of the tragedy that had happened in the building. Plus, then the building switched hands and was taken over by American soldiers, but there was a lot of life lost between the Japanese and the Americans fighting in that area. So there were priests murdered, there were nuns murdered, there were soldiers, there were both decapitations that had happened amongst both sides of the Japanese and the American soldiers. And then it became a hotel after that, where there were actually a few suicides that had occurred during the time that it was an operating hotel.
I wonder if these suicides could have had anything to do with its prior history. I mean, think about it. All the blood it was, spilled and stained in that building, and all the negativity. I mean, I can see why the security guard wouldn't go. You guys are brave. You guys are brave. You couldn't
Not really.
you couldn't pay me. Oh, well, less is a couple million. You couldn't pay me to go into a place like that. No way.
Well, that was only, 6 months ago, Sheree?
Yeah, it was 6 months ago.
And we were in the building for about 15 or 20 minutes. And that is the first time I've ever seen Sheree. She turned around, she looked at me after I was saying, hey, did you hear that voice? Did you hear that voice? And she really wasn't answering me. And then finally she said, yes, I hear him. And then she said to me, can we please go outside for a few minutes? Of course, it was pouring rain. So I'm like, okay. So we're like crawling out of this. We're crawling out of this hotel, and we got outside, and I'm like, it's raining. Why on earth would you want to come out here? She's like, I got to tell you, for the first time, she said, I'm a little shook up. And I was really surprised to hear that. But I can understand why she was. I mean, I was a little on edge too. But that was only the first 15 or 20 minutes. And the rest of the time we were in there, I mean, we've captured things in there that I don't think we've captured anywhere else, except for maybe our Copper Canyon Paranormal Research Center, which was the old Phelps Dodge Hospital. But it was a frightening experience. That was probably one of the ones where I was the most fearful. And the only other one I can think of that shook me up a little bit was the first night at the Bel Air house when we were sleeping in the master bedroom, and I had set those motion detectors all the way down the hall. You fell asleep like in the first 3 minutes, and I'm laying there for like an hour, and I saw the first one light up, and then the second one light up, and I had one right by the doorway, and I'm thinking, okay, if it crosses this doorway, I'm going to freak out. And yeah, it lit right up, and I'm thinking, okay, it's in the room.
I want to go back to this one place, though, in the Philippines. Okay, with that reputation of the monks, the nuns, and all that stuff being, savagely murdered, and all the, how can you say it, the hurt, the pain, the suffering, everything that went there and happened there, what type of messages were you getting from these ghosts or poltergeists or whatever? I mean, what were they trying to tell you? Were they trying to tell you to get the blankety blank out and leave, or what were they? Or were they sharing their experiences? What did you get?
We had a combination of everything across the boards. We had voices telling us, like you said, get out, you don't belong here, leave. We had voices of both male and female telling us they needed help, they had been murdered or attacked or beaten, that they missed their family. We had ones that were asking for, what else, Sheree? I'm trying to remember what else.
There's something like a mother with a, can you hear that, baby? Is that baby?
Oh, yes. Sheree asked if they were trapped in the building. And their answer was not the baby, meaning, so I don't know exactly what that meant, but it sounded, I mean, it was a clear message, but the intent of the message sounded like, yes, they were stuck there, but there was some small child or baby that was there too, and the baby was not trapped, but the rest of them were. So yeah, I do remember that.
You heard that too.
Yes, very clearly I heard that.
Did they,
we also...
Oh, go ahead.
We also had responses in English, Tagalog, which is the native language of the Philippines, Latin, and Japanese.
Oh, wow. So it was a variety of these people that perished. I mean, how many of them didn't go through the light? They're trapped there. That is so sad and scary at the same time. How long did you guys stay in that building?
We were in there just one night for an overnight. I think we were in there from 7:00 till early morning, but it was just the one night. It was tricky to get permission, and so by the time we actually were able to achieve the position, we only had one night left in that particular city. So yeah, it was just a one night overnight investigation.
Now, did the mayor of that town, did he try talking you out of going there?
Well, actually, the mayor had also paranormal experience over there. So she's like, "You guys are crazy. Why do you guys want to do this?" I said, "This is our kind of like, hobby."
Yeah, it was funny because what he explained to us, the second he asked why we wanted to spend the evening in there, we explained that we were paranormal investigators and that the reputation of this building had drawn us to it. We wanted to check it out. As soon as he heard all that, the first thing he says to us, he goes, "Okay, I'll let you guys in, but I got to tell you what happened to me." He said, "I was in there doing some remodeling and I was pulling up some floorboards." And he goes, "I was bent over," and he goes, "I had my hammer on the nail and I was pulling it up and something came across and pushed me in the back, pushed me forward right into my hammer." He goes, "When I looked up, I saw it run down the hallway."
Well, I commend you. I don't, it sounds like one of the hotter spots on the planet because, I mean, just think about it. The monks, religious people, nuns, it sounds like there was Japanese death, American death, and, a Filipino death there. Yeah, and how many of them didn't cross over, and they're trapped there on that property?
Yeah, that's the one thing that is really hard to understand. And, when you talk to most paranormal investigators or even just plain religious or spiritual people, the one sort of guiding principle is that when you pass, there's going to be this light that you can walk through, walk into, walk towards, and pass over. But yet we hit all these locations where all these people are still there. And, at times you have to take a step back and you think about life and you're like, okay, what has gone wrong for these people, or what information is not correct, or how is this happening? Because we run into that a lot, that you're reaching intelligent spirits that are able to communicate with us, and they're right where they were from the time that they passed. And it's like, okay, did they then have the ability to come back? But why would you want to come back to a place that, was not a happy memory, or are they truly stuck? But the one thing about getting into the paranormal and researching it is you always have 100 more questions for every answer you get. And that's just something you have to deal with because it happens each and every time.
Well, you can think about it, because depending on how a person dies, if somebody dies and they weren't prepared to die, for example, and they didn't have any time to whatever, they were executed, for example, or somebody dies in a car accident, I think them are the people that might have a problem, passing through the light. Now, I don't know if I would want to go through the light, because a friend of mine who's passed on couldn't make the decision when he passed on, do I want to go to the light or do I want to go through the darkness? Because maybe the light is a trick and you want to go towards the darkness, which will take you to heaven. I don't know. But maybe these people are trapped because the way they were executed, the way they died, they didn't have a chance. So they are basically stuck living like a recording over and over again.
Possible.
Well, yeah, that's definitely a possibility, and there's 100 more possibilities. Like you said, if you were wrongly executed or you died unfairly, they may be sticking around to try to give people some answers, or they may be trying to solve other complications. Somebody who takes their own life may be stuck because, who knows? Maybe it's some sort of purgatory between heaven and hell, and who knows how long. Because the one thing we've noticed is that anytime we've investigated a location where the person has taken their own life, and we've run into ones as much as 80 or 100 years prior that they took their life, they're still there.
Yeah. So normally when somebody, they get sick or they die of old age, they are used to being prepared to die at a certain age. If somebody's younger, for example, and they have a instant death, maybe they don't even realize they're dead. I mean, it's all these thoughts that